This is the Lydian Spin with Lydia Lunch and Tim Dahl, episode number 140. That's
Yes.
right. Once again, scattered across the globe as we are.
Yes, we are.
And speaking of, I don't know how much more horrible the Daily News can get. I don't know if you heard about this, Tim.
I don't know. I've been not really.
All right, let me. I'm going to fill
it.
it. I've kind of been cutting off myself, but a magnitude 7.3 earthquake struck northern Japan near Fukushima.
Oh no!
Late on Wednesday, causing injuries, derailing a bullet train, disrupting power. The quake, which also shook buildings in parts of Tokyo, struck around 11:36 p.m. local time, and many were injured in Fukushima. I can't even believe there's people back there now, but so the affected area. Okay, Fukushima was devastated in 2011, and it killed the tsunami over 16,000 people, and of course, triggered the nuclear crisis. And it led to the shutdown of all of Japan's nuclear power plants, forcing the country to rely, as we're soon going to have to rely, hopefully, on other sources of energy besides gas and oil. So the latest quake appeared to be a little bit less powerful, but around 2 million buildings in Tokyo Electric Power Company have lost electricity, although it was restored a few hours later, and around 9,000 buildings remained without power for a while. So, but wait.
Yeah.
No, but according to the nuclear power plant, no imminent danger. Right.
Yeah. Well, isn't it still leaking radiation?
Of course it is.
I mean, come on. It's it's
a disaster.
Yeah, it's a disaster. I don't know if this is a disaster. It's definitely mysterious. The what is it called? The Henry J. Kaiser Conference Center in Oakland, California. There's guys, working construction, and they opened up a wall, and there was a mummified body in there, and they're just completely confused. It's been there for a long time. It's been there so long that they're going to have a really hard time identifying who this person was. Simon's saying it's Jimmy Hoffa, but I doubt that. There's different theories. They think it's a person that was working there, like on the ceiling, and fell between the wall and something. I don't know. And then because there's always scratch marks, I think the person was like trying to get out, and then they just suffocated, and then
medieval torture devices coming back into style, I guess.
Yeah, so they're asking for leads. The quote from the detective, or I don't know who's investigating, sheriff, is the only positive thing that might come out of this is that this will bring some kind of closure, hopefully, to a family that's been wondering where this missing person's been. But so they're really desperately trying to figure out who it is. But
the good thing about modern DNA is if the person has any kind of dental records or any kind of file, which of course a lot of people don't have their DNA on file. Exactly. And they have no idea because it's a dusty mummy.
Yeah, it's this dusty mummy. So here's a quick other story, because a lot of times when they do have your DNA or fingerprints, it's because, well, you've been arrested. So in southern Florida, someone called the authorities because they saw one of these little canal banks on the side of the road. There's a little alligators came all the time down there, but they had a severed human arm in its mouth, and they're like, what the hell? So then they called the authorities, and they kind of looked around the area, and they also found a hand and a chunk of a leg, and they were able to identify who it was. His name was Dustin Davis Mills. Well, he just got out of jail like a year ago, so they think it's actually probably a homicide, and the alligators just kind of, they dumped the body, and they're like, oh, that's an easy snack. So they're investigating.
Well, Tim, it leads into my next story. And it's, again, we did not discuss this, but I don't know if you heard about this. A woman in New York City accused of murder brought her victim's dismembered leg into a store before getting rid of it. Harvey Marceline, who also goes by Marceline Harvey, stands accused of murder in second degree over the brutal murder of a 68-year-old Susan Layden, who's an LGBTQ activist who lived in her apartment building in Queens Cypress Hill. Right. The defendant was indicted earlier this week after originally being arrested on charges of concealing a human corpse. And since the New York is out of control. Since the indictment was issued and announced, authorities in New York City have shared additional details about the investigation that began after body parts started showing up in the area. First, a torso discovered in a large bag in a shopping cart near the corner of Pennsylvania Avenue and Atlantic Avenue.
I remember when that happened.
A month ago, a few weeks ago. 4 days later, and just a few blocks away, a human leg cut off at the knee. So police were initially mum about whether the incidents were connected, but that doubt was all but extinguished after a search warrant was executed at Marceline Harvey apartment that turned up a human head. During a press conference, NYPD Chief James Essig shared a video that allegedly shows the victim's leg being taken into a store. Police say they obtained surveillance footage that shows walking into her apartment complex with the victim on February 27th while pushing the exact same shopping cart that her torso was found in. Anyway, it's kind of there's so many random, bizarre crimes. And of course, Home Depot is where they brought the trash bags from. I mean, this is just,
oh my God,
insanity.
So Joel Sanchez Delgado, he was arrested on charges of burglary and just, I don't know,
buffoonery.
Did a bunch of, but he was injured, demanded a wheelchair. He's being wheeled into court when, just before going in the doors, he stood up and ran out of his wheelchair and, took off on foot. He thought that was because I think by law they have to provide a wheelchair if you ask for one. And he thought that was his way out. And he managed to get away for a few hours. And then they found him. And now he has another charge, he's just trying to escape his court hearing. But he's still pleading not guilty, by the
way. to even not guilty to even running away. Well, on a lighter and maybe more interesting note, in a new study that was just published in the journal Nature, researchers from around the USA have created a fiber that can bend under the slightest sound. So when these fibers are woven into a shirt, they're able to pick up the direction a sound was coming from, and even ones as faint as a heartbeat. So these smart fibers that can sense and respond to external stimuli, heat, sound, light, can trace, the origins of this kind of investigation research is in Japan in the late 1980s, began engineering a silk thread to have shape memory. So now in recent years, the emergence of smart fabrics with near field communication antennas, the technology used for pairing devices and making contactless payments. And some of these are even able to fold themselves up. Okay.
Oh my God.
Who likes to fold their t-shirts? I don't wear them. I wouldn't know. So Joel Fink, an electrical engineer at MIT, and his colleagues were encouraged to just take the smart fabrics one step further and to see if it was actually possible for fibers to respond to sound. And they realized, hey, Mother Nature and the human ear, the vibrational energy of sound causes hair fibers deep within the ear to swish back and forth, generating electrical impulses conveyed to the brain to let us process vibrations as sound. So this led Fink and his team to create a novel fiber that was just the right amount of sturdy while being flexible and generating an electric signal when bent. So in other words, the perfect fabric ear. So when testing a single fiber sensitivity, they found that it could pick up the most imperceptible sounds, like in a quiet library, and as easily as noise from heavy traffic or a speaker playing nearby. So the sensitivity of this one fiber was so on point that if somebody was wearing a shirt with these fibers, it could tell not only which direction the sound was coming in, but it might be very helpful to monitor heart rate, heartbeat for people who have, right. And also OBGYN doctors have said that it would be an effective way to actually hear fetal heart monitoring, which is very interesting. So potentially everybody wants these fibers to act as a boombox or sound cancellation system. So, which they've done in the lab by reverse engineering it, which would be great.
Right.
Shut out all that useless sound that I think comes out of my head, my own personal Moscow signal, Havana syndrome, etc. So, while the fibers aren't super sensitive, they are super sensitive to vibration. They can't really tell necessarily when an incoming sound is being received if it's only one at a time. So, for instance, now they have to use algorithms,
Right,
because they don't want the fibers to be overloaded. And fibers ubiquitous. Many they're obviously everywhere, but there are very few materials as intimate as these kind of fibers, and coupled with fabric. So I think this is kind of a good or a bad.
well, I mean,
Imagine you're wearing a shirt and you could be up the block and your favorite band is playing up the street, but you don't want to go in and because you might be contaminated. You pick up the sound and off you go.
Yeah, I mean, I can only imagine some real cheaper end of the scale, made in China versions of this, and then like you go into like a music festival and you're like itching and stuff. The things are just going nuts all over your body. Like, yeah.
I mean, but then there's the other, like, can I whisper into your nipple, please? I mean,
yes, there are many possibilities.
I was investigating psychophysics, which is the science of starting with the least amount of stimuli, undetectable, possible, and then rating the perception, perception and consciousness when you slightly escalate the stimulus. This is something I'm very interested in, and especially, concerning electrical stimulation due to nerve pain and just the psychophysics. And what's interesting is I'm going back to watch True Detective season 1, Matthew McConaughey. I was recently called McConaughey then because I do love his darker roles. True Detective season 1, where McConaughey has so many great narrative little snippets, but he had mentioned psychophysics, so I had to look that up. It's something I'm studying now. I have nothing more. I
guess it would be at what rate and duration, the kind of just building up of the stimulation would be. So I mean, if it just whoop in 1 second, you wouldn't know. But I guess it's like a slow build.
It's kind of the Reiki of sound and simulation. I mean, you know how Reiki is like hands-off stimulation. Do you feel it or don't you? Some people do, some people don't. Kind of just, what else have I got to do with my spare time but study psychophysics, quantum mathematics, etc.
I don't know. I guess one story where camel, two men that were in Tennessee,
of course,
2 men working in this petting zoo were killed on a camel rampage. And camels are usually pretty docile and they're mellow, but sometimes they can go berserk if they feel like just they break. I guess being in a petting zoo is probably after a while you can lose your shit.
And when if I don't get petted enough or I get petted too much, I can also break somebody's nose.
I think this petting zoo, the zoo was closing and they were herding in the animals that were petted all day by families. And then they were just kind of cornered this camel, and then it went absolutely insane. It went on a, how did he kill him? He was biting and trampling them. I mean, the 2 guys died. I mean,
a recent story too about a woman that was bit on the face and body 800 times by a dog, survived. Another story, bald eagle, rare as they are, bald eagle tried to snatch a 50-pound. Yeah, there you go.
I saw
animals gone wild.
I saw a bald eagle in Staten Island last year. I mean, they are coming. They're around,
and they're hungry. They're hungry.
Yeah, hungry kind of sinister guys.
Well, let's face facts. The world is going wild on many fronts, and you have to expect, as Mother Nature has gone wild in reaction to men's violence, as violence continues, as war goes on, as the repetition of history, same as it motherfucking ever was, carries on. It's just what we got to deal with.
Yes,
and that's why there is the joyful experience of the weekly Lydia and Spin with Lydia Lunch and Tim Dahl. Exactly. A little joy in everybody's late Thursday, Friday life. This is the Lydian Spin with Lydia Lunch, Tim Dahl, and Kid Congo Powers.
Ooh, here I am.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
One of our few repeat attenders.
Oh, yes.
Well, and mainly because having been seduced into blurbing your upcoming book, I had a lot of questions to ask you. And one question I have to start with, because is it true the first time you picked up a guitar was because I told you to and I played the drums?
It's very true.
All right, let's relay this story from an edited perspective.
Wait, hold on, Lydia. It's implied that you don't remember that?
Not as well as he does.
All right, okay.
I read it in his book, so I assumed it was true, like everything else in there. That was at a time, let me just recap shortly. That was at a time where I had this, I believe I had the place on Delancey Street in Teenage Jesus, Mars, Contortions. A lot of people would rehearse there. And you had taken the Greyhound in from Los Angeles to tramp around New York City and somehow ended up staying with me for a number of weeks, months, I don't know, having to withstand the many Teenage Jesus rehearsals in our plight or flight towards dictatorial perfection. And I guess it was one afternoon or evening and I was bored and I'm like, well, I don't know. What did I say? What happened, kid?
You said, I'm going to play drums and you're going to play guitar. And I said, well, I don't play guitar. And you said, well, we'll play this song. and you
But
said,
I think I also said, neither do I.
Yes. You didn't play drums either. That was the point of the whole exercise.
Well, the thing about Teenage Jesus is it was based around a single drum beat. So, and I'm always challenging some of the best drummers to a drum off, knowing, oh, please, come on.
Yes. So I said, I don't know how to play guitar. And you said, just make it up. And that was it.
Where would you have been without me? I have no idea.
I hear your voice all the time.
Just
through years.
Play it again.
Just make it up.
And you still hold on to that philosophy to some degree? Just make it up?
I 100% hang on to that.
That's the correct answer. Yes.
Well, for anybody that doesn't know, I mean, and we're going to jump in and out of this, but that led you to being the wild card guitar terrorist in many really at this point especially renowned groups: Gun Club, Cramps, Congo Nerval, which was your own project, which Jim Scalvunis was involved in, the Bad Seeds, and continuing on with the stuff you're doing now. What I loved about your book was I really love the period because we're of the same generation. I loved reading about the Rodney Bingenheimer, whiskey, Sunset Strip naughtiness that was going on when you, like I was of course on the East Coast, but I was huge into glam and going to rock concerts at that age, but you were going to Bingenheimers and hanging around the Sunset Strip. And I love that period because I love just all the glam that came out of it. And of course the total naughtiness. Yeah.
Well, and all the hitchhiking and, going off with Hustler.
Come on, say it loud.
Going out with hustlers and
blowjobs in the alley.
Yes, exactly. Drinking in the alley with all the other underage kids, and like I don't want to give away too much, but it was those kids were the stars to me more than the stars were, and they had a bigger influence on me than the stars had. And I'm saying my peers at the time, which were high school kids, because
of which some went on to become stars.
Exactly. Yeah, some did.
Yourself included.
Some were.
So where, when you hear about kids having these kind of like quote unquote adult experiences in their formative years, and some are quote unquote really scarred for life. And then I look at you and you celebrate maybe even moments where you might even have been exploited, but you were just diving into life and taking it as it comes.
This is the thing. I didn't feel at all exploited. I was
right
in control of that situation.
Yeah.
I was curious, and I volunteered for these informations. I wanted that experience. I didn't know what was going to happen. Maybe I would be left for dead. I don't know. Or maybe it will be a great cuckoo psychedelic weirdo thing I've never done before. So that's how I see sex. Crazy psychedelic weirdo thing I've never done before.
But along the way, after all, from the 70s, whether it's drug overdose, AIDS epidemic, how do you keep your positive spirit? You seem just very optimistic the whole time. All the time.
What doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
There you go.
I say whatever doesn't kill you makes you want to kill it.
Exactly. You're exactly right there. But it is, it is I have a lust for life, as Iggy Pop once said. And the idea is that I wanted to live. I thought I'd some trauma at an early age with a murder of a family member, and I thought, well, life is short, and life isn't really worth shit, really, if that can happen. And so I made a vow to experience every kind of thing I could.
Right.
And that was a philosophy I made up, at age 14, and stuck to it way after its time limit ran out.
Fair enough.
Well, but Kid, you and I mean, it's interesting because of the generation that we're both from, because of the music or the literature we were attracted to, because of the art that we've done. And you even back then, but now both of us sort of, for quite a while, people think that you're very positive and up. And one part of you is because one part of your genetic information is the same way I feel I have to be like the cheerleader to the people I'm around. But that's only one side of you. And as your book details, there's a lot of darkness underneath that. And it's one reason, for instance, I was really happy that I got to interview you for my Artist Depression, Anxiety, and Rage documentary, because again, there's so much of that in so many creative people that might not be apparent. I mean, everybody thinks you're just the most joyous and, fun loving. And to some degree, we both are. And on the other side of that, don't doubt my darkness.
Now we've told it. But yes, the thing is that's it. It's a battle. It's a battle. It's, you think you need I'd need an exorcist to come and,
I need a sexorcist. How about a sexorcist?
Yes, a sexorcist. And, but I think that for me, I speak for myself, that I use lightness and positiveness actually, to battle depression, and to battle anxiety, and to battle things like low self-esteem, all these things that I kind of grew up with. The one thing I learned from writing this book is I did exactly what the fuck I wanted my whole life, and that was kind of really nice to find out, because I thought that I hadn't done that at all, but right, black and white on paper, it says I did.
Sometimes the things we really want to do at the time, for the better or the worse of it, is things we have to do at the time in order to get to the other side of it, whether it's for the best or the worst. That's part of the other war, is you have to go through it, being as adventurous as the three of us are.
But also, like, stopping for a second and whatever the medium and the process is to force a reflection. I remember Lydia a couple months ago, I don't know what you were going through, some kind of archive thing. And you called me and you're like, hey, let's talk for a second. Sure. And she was like, just kind of reflecting, like, when did all this happen? Because probably like you, she's just going and going. And then sometimes it's hard to be like, hey, wait a second, can I at least appreciate my own participation for a second? And sometimes it's just hard to get a perspective on that. And that's
which is
great
what
that this book allowed that.
Thank you for bringing that up, Tim, because it's what I tell so many of the artists, musicians, writers that I know, is you have to take a step back sometime. And I mean, I do take a step back, but when I see the glut of it all at once, I'm like, holy mother, Jesus.
I feel
here we are.
Yeah, I feel exactly the same way. And that's what I thought. I didn't start writing it till I left New York City, where I'd been living for 12 years. I moved to Washington, D.C., which is quite a bit quieter, not by any means quiet, but quieter. And I had the time to reflect finally. That was it. Now I'm going. I'm always making something. I'm always traveling. I'm always on tour. I'm starting a new project. A lot of it is so I don't have to look at myself.
Make everybody else look at you. Hey,
exactly. You look at me.
You look at me.
You're in the desert right now? Are you in
yes.
Arizona?
No one's looking at me.
I mean, so sometimes things can slow down in the desert a little bit. So when you're going, and you've basically conditioned your brain through all these experiences that you were hungry for, does your brain ever feel starving? Does it kind of fight you a little bit? Like, I need to get going again, because the grooves are so deep in terms of just your whole life, the roads you've paved in your brain. Is that hard sometimes to press stop?
100%. Yeah, it is, because that's why I tour a lot. I tour a lot, the last few years, not so much because of circumstances.
Oh, by the way, today, as we're recording this, it's the 2-year anniversary of the lockdown starting.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Okay. But Tim has that same thing, like crashing into a brick wall when the tour is over. Next. But also what people have to realize is no matter who you played with and how big the names seem, we still have to work to keep our necks off the sidewalk near the gutter.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
yeah, it's work. It's our life's work, really.
And it's so not only we have to, right. It's like, we can't stay still. There is a variety of mediums in which we function, but also we do have to be on the road or producing stuff. We have to, because we need to, because it's burning in our blood, but also we are working artists. Nobody is paying the rent but us. No,
just us.
Yeah. And for a 40-hour work week, when you have just a regular job, that money accumulates pretty quickly. And when you hey, that was a nice little run, and now there's nothing, and now I have to go to the next run. It's people don't even realize.
Tim, I always say I work from 9 to 5. That's 9 a.m. to 5 a.m.
Exactly.
That's how we fucking work. I mean,
it is true. There's no hours for us.
I theoretically, I like to get paid by the minute or the second, but that's bullshit. It doesn't happen that way. That's just the pimp in me going, I should be being paid by the minute here. I used to be paid by the hour. I got to get paid by the minute. Well, nobody can afford those minutes.
So, I mean, living in the desert, how much does the sunshine help you? You've lived in many different places. Do you like the vitamin D
overload with that? It's starting to get hot already.
Okay.
February.
I'm sure.
March.
Okay.
I don't know where
you're in Tucson.
Know where we are in a month in the year.
Right.
It's already starting. It's already 80 degrees today. And
it is unbearable in Arizona.
And the summer is absolutely brutal, but you have to treat it like you treat the winter.
Yeah. It's my experience just going into, actually, you're in Tucson, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Which if I was gonna live in Arizona, that's where I live. But even, it's like Phoenix and Minneapolis share that thing that there's like 4 months in the year where everyone's inside, and it's yes. On the other spectrum, the opposite spectrum. But yes, that's a whole thing.
You're inside or you're out of the state.
Exactly.
Even better. So, Kid, what have you been doing during the now on the 2-year anniversary? This will go out a few days later of the lockdown. How did you deal with that, and what did you do during that time?
finishing up the book was a big thing, and getting all the pieces together for that. Also, I have been recording like crazy with people. I just been taking. I've made an album with a guitar player named Naeem Amour, who was here in Tucson, and actually we did it all by we never met up except for one
remote
we did
remote recording
during the most lockdown part of the lockdown. We just kept doing it and doing it and doing it, and then we had an album's worth of stuff.
What is it? What is the vibe of it?
It's a guitar. We're both guitarists. He's a very spaghetti western sort soundtracky Marconi, like a Jacques Demy movie or something. We use all these kind of elements, and then I mixed with my noisier elements, and a lot of instrumental, but there's a few vocals we've done on it. And
any with spoken word on it? That sounds really like it lends itself to a little bit of spoken word, cattle prod.
Yes. Well, there he is. There's always my singing is spoken.
Yeah, I know.
But there is a few recitations.
Nice.
And so I'm happy in that.
Is there a title for that coming?
It's just called Naeem Amour and Kid Congo Powers.
How's that gonna come out, or when's it gonna come out?
Oh, we don't know.
Of course.
We just got the label that puts out my records, In the Red Records. They just said, I love this, I'm going to put it out. So
is it just guitar and vocals, or do you guys add other things?
Oh, we have other things, drum machine,
drums,
sometimes different instruments.
Okay.
I mean, even before the pandemic, I've done a lot of recording on GarageBand remotely with people. All the Cypress Grove stuff, some was in his place, most of it was just GarageBand. I mean, it's very effective. It sounds great.
I did that. I did some tracks with Annie Hogan, the piano player. She worked with Mark Allman a lot. She's most known for her solo stuff.
I did a track with her a few years ago.
Oh yeah, I know.
Blue Contempt, yeah.
Yes. I'm on.
Are you good friends with Mark Allman, or friends at all?
We're friendly acquaintances, a little, friendly when we see each other. I met him through Lydia.
I'm trying to get back in touch with him. Please let me know how I can.
Okay. But when you were living in London, and we were both living in London for a while, we followed each other around.
You know what? No recall of you living in London.
Well, not just you guys are both kind of nomadic historically too. That you share this. And what's the longest you've lived? What's the longest duration you've lived in any one place after I don't know, age 15?
Probably New York.
What years was that, kid?
I lived there for about 12 years, starting 90. I want to say 96. Yeah, okay. That sounds right. Yeah, to about 2005 or 6.
Where else? Tell us kind of the trajectory of your, nomadic existence. And so we know you were born, come out of the LA scene. Just kind of fill us in that, then your nomadic trajectory of places you've landed.
Yes, I grew up in Los Angeles area, in La Puente, California, and then I came to New York for a while when I met you in the later 70s, and I was there for, I don't know, how many months that Lydia put up with me. And
wait, you're going to be putting up with me, but only for a day in the coming future. But it might seem like
that's
months.
That's my payback.
Where's that going to be?
Oh, in Tucson.
In Tucson.
Oh, okay, cool.
Then I lived in New York. Then I lived in London. The gun club moved to London and promptly broke up. And then from London, I got involved with the Bad Seeds, and then I moved to Berlin in the 80s, West Berlin, that is. And
how long did you live there?
Like 3 years.
People always think I lived in Berlin, but I never lived in Berlin. I would just be there for very short periods of time. And maybe because of working with De Hout or Einstürzen de Neubauten or various other people, or recording Honeymoon in Red in Berlin, which the tapes were lost for 8 years. I don't know.
That's where I'm sitting as we speak, in fact.
That's the circle. That's the circle that goes around.
Are you in West Berlin or East Berlin?
Oh yeah, the former Newcon or whatever. I don't know
West Berlin.
Yes, West Berlin. Yeah.
I lived in Neukölln on Hobrechtstrasse. Yes.
Okay.
And that was a time that was only like old people and prostitutes around there.
Which
now
were you?
Now it's young people and prostitutes.
It's the groovy. Yes. And then I moved back to London for a couple of years. Then I moved back to LA for a while and started Congo Norvell, and then that got tired and I moved back. Then I moved to New York for the long term, and then I got with my partner Ryan, and he got a job. What happened is that we moved in together in Williamsburg, and we moved into a building that had bed bugs.
There's that
and it was one of the first big epidemics of that era, so 2005-ish.
Right.
Yeah. And
how did the city get that under control? Because they did seem to kind of, after a couple of years, you're hearing about it everywhere, and then just stopped.
Well, it stopped. But I just read an article the other day about how top cities for bed bugs, and New York is about number 3. Chicago is number 1. Now,
I believe it.
Trauma that has left a trauma on me. Whoa. It was really fucking horrible. Well, they're like biting you. They're in the walls. They're in your bed. They're in the curtains. You open a book. They're in the fucking book. It's like
2 weeks ago. I was in Florida, Sanibel Island off of Fort Myers, and at night these sand fleas, these sand gnats. I'd go check out like the sunset or something on the beach. They bit the fuck out of me. It was
once I got crabs at Jackie Curtis's bar on Lower East Side, and I have to say this, I must have got them there. Ever since that one experience, and trust me, I was plucking those fuckers out and looking at them. I mean, I have, of course, usually get them as a teenager, once get rid of them, or lice as a child. Ever since then, I go with the flashlight, the luminol.
Yes.
I look for bed bugs everywhere. Never found
every hotel.
I have been on. Oh, I do. I have been on the bed bug train. And what's interesting is a guy from Romania who was on vacation in San Francisco, saved up all his money, brought bed bugs back, started bedbugregistry.com, where you can see how close they are to your house still.
Kid, during that period where you had bed bugs, I was in New York myself. One night, because it was going around, and I was kind of traveling, and those things hitch a ride. I think I had that first bed bug, and I killed it. I was just in that phase where I was falling asleep, but I wasn't in the dream spot. And then all of a sudden, I was like, I feel like something is crawling on me. And I woke up really quickly with like bullseye pinpoint accuracy. I squished it against my chest with my finger. I think that was it. I got the first one in my house.
I've heard tale of finding the
zero.
I've heard tale of finding the original one and getting rid of it and never again. However, it's still a problem, and it's a problem.
And we had these in our apartment in Williamsburg. We had our floor. It was a very old building, and the floor boards, like you could see through the cracks in the floorboards. And Ryan. One day Ryan came home, and I had like blue tape, and I was like taping all the floor. I had like lost my mind.
Right.
How could you not? Did you sue the freaking landlord? Or?
Well, we tried, but and then we moved to DC. Then Ryan got offered a job in DC, and we said, we're going.
And you threw out all your furniture? Was that kind of like how you do it?
Yeah. The clothes, we like boiled the clothes till like your shirts are this big. You couldn't wear them anymore.
Well, you went, know what? You might have had that episode of bed bugs, but you had a lot of episodes of people who were buggy in the head, considering the musicians you worked with.
Exactly.
Yeah, head bugs.
So how long were you in DC for again?
Like 10 years, I think.
Whoa, I didn't realize that. Okay.
No, it's crazy, huh? Yeah, it flew by. It actually was great there. We had an amazing community, the arts, and amazing good music community. And I don't know, we just was good there. And we lived there during the Obama years too. So, we moved there and George Bush was there, and all these, it was still the president. And all these people were like, we're never coming to visit you. I hate that asshole. We're never coming. And then Obama and everyone wanted to come when Obama got it. But it changed the whole mood of the city, because it's African-American city,
Right.
And people were so happy, and it was great.
At first, so happy until they realized the ineffectiveness of the beige puppet.
I'm talking about the honeymoon period.
If you were there for 10 years, I'm trying to figure out how deep, or were you at the end of George Bush? I mean, in other words, were you there when Trump took over?
No, we were long gone. We were
okay. So it was basically
to New Haven, Connecticut.
Whoa! So that where the birthplace of social Darwinism with Yale. So
yes.
you go to you follow Dick. Basically, you follow Dick Cheney is what you're telling me.
Yes. Owen Bones. Yes.
That's better than if Dick Cheney is following you.
Yes.
Good point. What's your favorite pizza in New Haven?
Oh, Frank Pepe's is mine. People have their favorites though, and it's a very big divide.
Oh yes, it is. So Sally's
not your. I love. I like. They were all good.
They're all good. Yeah. Would you go to the?
I'm not going to get into this war.
That's fine. Would you, when you were living in New Haven, did you take advantage of just Yale? I mean, they learned their libraries.
I was working for Yale at the art gallery.
Okay.
And it was good. It was close to New York.
Right. There you go.
Metro North. You're there.
Metro. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I made the most of it. I had a DJ night there that was successful and fun. There was nothing happening, so I was like, let's make something happen. And
what's your specialty when you DJ? Because we had a gig not that long ago in Phoenix where you did DJ, and I'm trying to recall, was it something from, I think it might have been from my favorite film that you played right before I went on, something from Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf?
Oh yeah, yes, I played it. I brought that especially for you.
Of course.
I had a feeling you'd like it. Yeah, it was the monologue from Snap.
Swampy.
Yeah, and but I usually play, well, it depends what I'm doing. If I'm doing the dancing thing, I started like playing like old obscure soul stuff. And then a lot of people are doing that. And I kind of decided I'm going to go into some rock and roll. And I started playing like 70s, like glam stuff. Cause
we love it.
Yes, because we love it. But also, that's what they were playing. I was like, oh, but they were playing at Rodney's Disco, like Gary Glitter and Sweet and Super Quattro and T-Rex. And then I thought, well, this goes really into punk rock. So I started playing the earlier punk rock stuff. So I try to mix it all up. They don't all go together at all. And then you can throw some disco in there too, if you're going to just do the time period. But I try to do that.
There's only one disco song I will abide by. Mm-hmm. And once I had to call Tim and ask him, because I couldn't remember it, but there's only one, and that's Sylvester. You Make Me Feel. That's about as far as I go into disco.
Oh, do you prefer, with disco, do you prefer the kind of Giorgio Moroder synth sequence disco, or do you prefer the bands like Chic, like the instrument driven ones?
Yeah. That Shirley and Company records really good. It's almost like funk, really. But
yeah. I mean, Bernard Edwards. It's just ridiculous.
So no, I love that. I like Barry White really a lot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And,
kid, have I ever told you directly? I don't want to see no panties.
Yes, exactly. My favorite line from any song. I want to see how you came into this world.
How about one of my favorite lines is, what color panties are you wearing?
Oh, yes.
And how long have you been wearing them? Thank you, Lux.
But actually, here are right in front of us are the lyrics to "I'm Gonna Love You Just a Little More, Babe" by Barry White, as I had to do a solo performance of this song for a German French, you know, the Arte channel. They were doing the influence of Barry White. It is some kind of anniversary because.
Well, give us a few lines. Come on.
Okay, it's I feel so good. You lying here next to me. Oh, what a groove. You know you have no idea how it feels. My hands just won't keep still. I love you, baby. Ooh, I just want to hold you. Run my fingers through your hair. Come here, closer. Closer. Ooh, baby, give it up. It ain't no use. Blah, blah, blah. So on and so on.
Yay.
He's like, you know what? I realize this is beatnik poetry.
Oh, kind of, right?
Yeah.
Do you prefer just
for me?
Just aesthetically?
That's what I think. I'm a beatnik doing poetry when I read.
Oh, there you go.
No.
Just aesthetically, do you prefer the deep voice of Barry White, just the bass voice in disco, or do you prefer the classic falsetto disco thing that Sylvester and even I guess Bee Gees even did that? But
well, I love Sylvester. That works.
yeah.
That works on so many levels.
It's a ridiculous question. I like opinions. So I mean,
but I actually liked Barry White because actually this director did a documentary in the 90s when I was living in New York, and I guess it was in the beginning of the Pink Monkey Birds, my solo band, and he said that you told me that this band was going to be Lou Reed and Leonard Cohen meet at a Barry White concert.
I want to ask that because you're so much in the rock and roll world, and obviously we all know when disco came out, there was, for whatever dumb reason, there was this divide culturally. And did you like disco when it came out, or is this kind of more what happened?
I hated it. I'm just answering.
You hated it.
No, but did you like disco?
I went for it in the smallest way because it was gay culture. I was like, oh, I could go somewhere where gay people are, you know. And I was still, you know, even though I was going wild and drinking and taking drugs and you know, having sex, I was also very naive, you know, and I was trying to find my tribe, really, because all of a sudden this glam tribe was dissipating. It wasn't really there anymore. And there wasn't really a punk rock scene. But but there was and so for a minute I thought, oh, I'll go here, you know, for my jollies. And it wasn't so much that I was so invested in the music so much. It was
the scene.
Yeah, it was a means to an end. But then, but I was already aware then through the glam and stuff like Lou Reed was already, you know, there. And I was more a rock lover anyway.
Well, I love when you say in your book too, because it's absolutely one of my all-time favorite albums is Lou Reed Berlin. Just at that period, I mean, it's so beautiful, so heavy, dark, deep, and really it's one of his best works before
there wasn't a record like that.
No, that scene, and it was very, very inspirational and influential. What's coming up next, Kid? I mean, do you have any tours set up and music tours? Are you going to be doing a spoken word tour for your book when it comes out in the fall?
I haven't booked anything yet. I'm kind of it's the first time I've had a book, so I don't know what's going to happen.
Well, let me give you one bit of advice.
Yeah.
Don't do bookstore readings because you don't make any money off of that. Do club readings and sell the book.
Yeah, definitely so. You know, I don't have any live stuff booked until the fall, really. And the book's coming out in October. And
what will you be going out with musically next?
A version of the Pink Monkey Birds, which you know, the same old. And Maybe some new old or some less, some more. I don't know. Something completely different, maybe.
In the States or in Europe?
In the States. I don't have anything in Europe.
Who books you in the States?
Todd Cote does. Do you know him? Or,
What's he from? What's he from?
He's in San Francisco. It's
What's
called Leafy Green.
Oh yeah, they've rejected me numerous times.
Oh yeah.
We have our own rock booking.
Yeah, I know he's a fan of yours, though.
Yeah, well, who isn't? But whatever.
Yes, exactly.
Or who, they say they are a fan of what? I always like to ask. Yes. What exactly do you think you're a fan of over there, fanboy?
Yeah, so we're announcing. When is this going to air?
Friday.
So this Friday.
It's gone right up. Okay.
Going right up.
Right up. Okay, yeah, because we're not announcing the book for a few more Fridays. So the 20th.
Well, we've already talked about it. So
I know. I've talked about
only
it.
Only the Lydian spinners will be able to put their advanced advanced copies in.
Advance, yes, exactly. And so that's coming up. Just the book is the big thing. A Wolf Manhattan Project record is done and about to come out.
I don't want no skinny.
Yes, exactly.
I want a fatty.
Yeah, are you on the new one? No, you're not.
No, I don't even know the one I was on. So anyway, one day, Wolf Manhattan Project, which is Kid Congo, Bob Burt, and
Mick Collins
are in the studio, and I just decided to pop in.
Yes.
They're playing this pretty groovy tune, and for some reason, what came out of my mouth is, "I don't want no skinny. Give me a fatty." Don't even ask what I'm talking about.
I made up my own. It came to my own conclusions about that. And it's a grand song, and so that is something that's coming out,
so that's the album of Wolf Manhattan Project.
New album, yes.
On In the Red.
On In the Red Records.
And when does that come out?
Any minute now.
Oh, I think I just heard it plop out.
Yes, a plopping out.
How do you describe Wolf Manhattan Project?
Well, it's Mick Collins, it's Bob Burt, and myself, and we come from the same world of primitive rock.
A lot of voodoo rhythms.
Yes, a lot of rhythm. It's a very rhythmic. It's very
groovy.
It's groovy. It's weirdo.
It's kind of weirdo. Yeah, it's kind of weirdo, a little psychedelic, soulful. You always dress well. That's important.
Yes, and yeah. So it's like all three of our bands as one band. You know, because I thought the first album was a bit like three solo people's solo bands. You know, Mick's songs sounded like all of his, and these ones sound a little more like a band. You know,
is there anyone? I mean, you've worked with some of the classic Dead or Alive groups at this point: Gun Club, Cramps, Congo Norvell, Bad Seeds.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anyone out there that you're like, I would, because I never think of, I want to work with that person. I've always have the concept that I want to work with them. Do you ever go like, I'd really like to do something with, I mean, other than me, of course, kid, other than that one song we did. Please. Oh, one song in all these years. Ridiculous. I'm going to go back to the drums.
We need to, exactly. I'm going to make something up. But that's what actually Wolf Manhattan was, because I'm playing a baritone guitar, which I'd never touched before. But the concept was to have two baritone guitars and drums. And but Mick never quite got a baritone guitar, so I became I kind of became the default bass player. So
about who you want to play, who would you play
who
with?
do I want to play with? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm the same way. I have no idea. You know, I don't pick. I usually
You're the chosen one.
For someone to pluck me up.
Honey, you've been the chosen one.
Is there a genre? Is there a genre that people would not expect you to be into? I mean, you're a DJ and you're or is there a genre that you're just like, you know what, I maybe I shouldn't say it, but I really don't like this. Two-part question.
Yeah, I mean, what don't I like?
Yeah.
anything simpering.
Wait. You don't like chemo?
Chemo rock.
Emo.
Emo.
No, that might be, it may not be for me.
What's wrong with white boys whining?
Yeah, I've been with some real whiners who had something to whine about.
What about like
You're
super
more down with the winos.
Yes,
Really? Nice. What about super esoteric avant-garde? I mean, do you always want like a driving groove, or are you into?
Oh no, I'm completely forever trying to do something with no backbeat.
Cool.
And
Cool.
I always chicken out, or I don't really chicken out. Then I say, because I want to collaborate with someone, and then they always want to have a fucking backbeat.
But kid, that's why I have a wide range of psychoambient music that I've created that doesn't, because the vocals become the backbeat. I understand that concept. I mean, it doesn't fit into the format of rock, but I'm not talking rock. I'm talking psychoambience, and that might mean you have to do it yourself, because everybody
does mean I have to do it myself. And actually, doing the Barry White song.
Oh, now we're talking.
Something I did by myself with no drum machine and just fuzzy tremolo guitar.
I'm loving it already.
Can I pitch something? How about a psychoambient piece that's basically like a singing duet, but it's a spoken word duet between the two of you, which you can do your Barry White and then
well, it's like, what? We have done something like that. And there's another Wolf Manhattan Project track that never saw the saw the light of day.
Take me back to that one, honey buns.
Now I can't remember what.
So it's somewhere in the vault.
It's me, you, and talking about.
Oh yes,
old New York and the ghost of Lower East Side.
I think we were just like in conversation, record. Well, we gotta dig that thing out.
Yeah.
Who buried that in the grave that it doesn't belong in?
The bird is the crypt keeper of the Wolf Manhattan archives.
The bird, the Bob bird.
Bob Bird. Yes.
He's probably listening to it nightly while he's looking at pictures of me. I don't know what's going on. Or pictures of you. I don't know what's going on in that man's mind. I love the Bob Bird.
Oh, great.
What's not to love?
Yeah. So the Wolf Manhattan Project, the Naima Moore Project. There's coming around the same time as my book in October. I have a live record I did in Australia with Harry Howard's band. Howard's brother.
Oh, hang on. Roland S. Howard's brother, Harry Howard, who also did live Shotgun Wedding shows, who we always play with one form of Harry Howard when Retrovirus goes to Australia. Lovely. I get to tell a Harry Howard story for a minute. Yeah. Harry Howard, who is so elegant, so composed, such a gentleman. Once in the Shotgun Wedding tour in Europe, he walked into the backstage, and for no reason other than I can be quite obstreperous, he walked in and I threw a knife, well, kind of at him, but my aim is so good that I knew it would just stick in the wall right beside his head. And Harry's like, oh. And years later, he said, well, Lydia, I always thought you were very spirited. I'm like, Harry, you did nothing to deserve that. I just did it. And his comment was, I always thought you were very spirited. Oh, what a gentleman.
He is hilarious.
He was part of the Pop Crimes Roland S. Howard tribute, which I was very happy to play with Harry for that. He's lovely. So it's you and Harry Howard?
Me, Harry Howard, Edwina, his partner, Edwina.
Oh, she's super nice, yeah.
Yeah, and Claire Moore and Dave Graney from that band, The Moodists.
Oh, fantastic! What is that? What is that called?
That is they had a band all together called Harry Howard and the Near-Death Experience, the NDE. And so this record is going under the moniker of Kid Congo Powers and the Near-Death Experience.
And when does that come out? I'm excited. What?
We're a live record by the Near Death Experience.
When does that see the light of day?
In October.
And who's putting that out?
In the Red Records.
I got to get a hold of these guys.
I know, and
I got to talk to them about something.
I'm doing the artwork right now. Look at, I even put some. I got some photos of for the record. Yeah.
Very nice. All right. Arts and crafts are in the house.
Yeah. So this is going to be, these are going to be on the record cover.
Australia is such a good market for what, I mean, the rock scene is so good there. I mean, it's, you know, it is a drag to get there, but we always have such a good time. I mean, I've been going there for decades, and it's just, there's such good rock. There's such good art. There's such good food. Yes, it's extremely expensive. They do pay well. I love going to Australia.
No, it's great for me too. I mean, I didn't go for 20 years to there. I never went there with, I went there with Nick in the Bad Seeds, but I never, and the Gun Club Act played in 1983. They did a tour that was very notorious. And that's when I rejoined the group, because his group had quit at the airport going to Australia.
Oh my God.
That is in the book.
And he showed up there and he called me saying, like, can you come to Australia like tomorrow? I was like, yeah. I just left the Cramps. I was like, yeah.
Well, you know, Jeffrey Lee Pierce Gun Club, which every, you know, in death, of course, there's so much glory. And let's not forget about, I mean, the Gun Club, great albums, great songs. We played together, I think only once, right? In upstate somewhere. Yeah. But Cypress Grove, who then went on to release 4 tribute albums. Well, the 4th one's coming, to Jeffrey Lee Pierce, after he had found a cassette in his closet that just said JLP of unreleased songs, of which I've been on all of them. That's how I came to do my own albums with Cypress Grove, which are amazing. And he was on Jeffrey's last tour. What people don't realize is Jeffrey was a tortured fucking monster. Yeah, Jeffrey was a brilliant songwriter and mind, but he was a monster. And like some people, for some reason, are not destined to be long for this world, because they just aren't. And I mean, I say that with, you know, love for the man he was, and also understanding of the monster he did become. Yeah. Because sometimes the burden of creativity, some people just, you know, the burden of sensitivity, some people just can't hold up under the weight of. They just can't.
Yeah. And he was, completely, you know, romantic and great in so many ways. And a monster in so many ways too.
Which is
his own worst enemy.
Which, you know, that is one thing, contrary to popular belief. I've tried to avoid being that monster, especially when working with other musicians, because that's the sacred grounds in which I want to bring people and show them in their best light, because I know they're going to help me be in my best light. So the last place I want to be, asked Tim Dahl. The last thing I want to be is a monster.
Exactly.
I keep that in the bedroom where it belongs.
And that's why I wanted to write about him in my book, because there's so, like, I wanted to write something with no disclaimers, but it was this, but it was that, blah, blah, blah. I just want to write what happened, how was our relationship, what that was about, and how I played the first ever Gun Club show that ever, from the germ nucleus to the very last Gun Club show, when Jeffrey was quite a mess, you know.
Yeah, big enough bookend. And also what's interesting is you both started with fan clubs for other people, like you with the Ramones and him for Blondie freak. Jeffrey, he thought he was Debbie Harry at some points, I think.
So that was a big bonding moment for us, you know. Like any, we'll speak for the rock and roll musician, you know, you do it because you love music, you want to be around music. That's a way to get close to music, and maybe you'll meet the band, maybe this will happen. And that was also the thing when Jeffrey said, let's start a band. He's like, we'll get free drinks and get into shows for free. Okay, I'm going. I'm in.
And also you thought, and you did early on as a young teenager, were interested in being a rock journalist.
Yes. I thought that was a way to be around music and make
until I stuck a guitar in your hand and then everybody else wanted you. Fortunately, we're the only two that ever saw that original performance.
Exactly.
But let's not forget the Cramps had originally asked me to be their drummer. Little did they know, but I'm like, I'm starting my own band. Get that other redhead, Miriam Lina. I may release a drum solo album still yet. Just
Ooh.
That's what we're waiting for.
Well, nobody is but you, honey.
Maybe bongos for the Congo.
Well, I mean, what is not rhythmic if, you know, It's the sound of me grunting. It's all, yeah, exactly.
And, all right. So, all right. Things are kind of coming back. You're kind of doing, you're doing a lot of stuff, actually. Do you plan on touring for the rest of your life?
Sure. What else am I going to do? You know, that's what people are asked that question often. Like, don't you think you're old to be touring? I'm like, what am I going to do? You know, I mean, what
can we do,
kid? They were doing things like, yeah, you know, Harry Dean Stanton's last movie was minutes before he left the planet, you know, and amazing performance, you know. You go see country music, Porter Wagner, that's like people carrying him on stage in a new, you know, it's amazing, you know, that of course. I mean, my mother saw Billie Holiday towards the end of her life, and she was basically carried on stage. She was really young to be in such a condition, but and well, there's a lot of stories. Seth Putnam of Anal Cunt, he was in a wheelchair at the end. I mean,
I myself, I'm usually carnied on stage.
Yes.
Doing the spoken word things. I am more like the carny on stage as opposed to being carried on stage.
Well, I mean, Lydia always makes it. We had a show in DC last fall, and that was the only time I saw her where she's like, I don't know, because she got some stomach thing. I don't know what.
I got food poisoning, and
so you got food poisoning. Yeah.
I'm never sick.
You're like,
you're
like, I might have to call it, but she somehow managed to do it. Yeah.
Luck. Stomach flu, food poisoning, it'll go away. The concert might remain in somebody's brains and ad infinitum.
Exactly. Now somehow you find the
well, no, I have to recall this, Tim. There was another time I did have not food poisoning, but I was in so much pain that I was vomiting, and it was so cold, so much back pain. And Retrovirus is on stage. Fortunately, right behind the stage was a toilet and a shower. And all I could think of was, right now, I'm going to dump Thai noodles on Tim's head and his boxes. If I don't get it, I'm like, I'll be right back. Go off stage in the middle of a song, puke, come back. Had to do that maybe 2 or 3 times, but I'm like, I'll be right back. Finish the show. What are you gonna do? We're show folk. It's what we do. The show must go on.
Exactly. Speaking of
but I mean, I think I've only had like 3 episodes, and all with retrovirus, because I don't ever get sick, get the flu, get a cold. At one time, I know that I had to call someone to the front of the stage to run me to the bathroom to protect it between songs. I'll be right back. But it's not something about retrovirus. But
well, I mean, usually when she's squirting on stage, it's not.
Hey!
It's not from anything.
Not from my ass.
That too. I've seen.
It's not from my ass or mouth. All right, I don't really know how much further we can go with this conversation.
Yes, spewing all over the place.
Well, you know, some of us get juicier the older we get. Others just dry up.
Yeah, what's going on with you?
Well, trust me, a lot of things. We'll talk about that later. Anyway,
I'm doing that. I have a book coming out October 18th, and it's called Some New Kind of Kick, a memoir, and it is that's my big news.
It's great. I read it and blurbed it. Thank you very much for inviting my blurb onto your back page or wherever it's going to be. And it's great because it really does go into the down and dirty of these bands and also your life previous to the bands, which I found the most interesting parts of it were just growing up as a young Mexican weirdo in LA during that period, finding your tribe within glam, then, from glam going to punk, then going to alt music. And here we are now. And both of us coming up at the same time. Ain't going out like that, except we're going out of this podcast right now because it is the Lydia and Spin with Lydia Lunch, Tim Dahl, and Kid Congo Powers.
Thanks, Lydia and Tim.
Thanks, kid.